Hello and welcome here to TalkFCB and welcome back to another episode here of the TalkFCB podcast coming up today, guys, because I have been over the last few days spending a bit more time with family. Of course, that's very, very important, especially at this time of year. So I hope you've all been having some really good celebrations and some really good quality time there. But we've still got plenty to discuss on the Barca front right here today, and there's lots happening, and there's been lots happening over the past few days. We're going to be talking today about the likes of Lamine Yamal, Frenkie de Jong, Ferran, Torres. We're going to be talking about our hopes, our dreams, our expectations for the second half of the season, and of course we've also got a very big update on Dani Olmo and his registration here today. That whole situation needs discussing, so sit back, relax yourselves again, get dialed in to the Barca news, and let's do it, guys. But first of all, I would like to say a very big thank you indeed to Max, to OC, to Cooler Corner for their great support there on the super thanks. I really, really do appreciate the support over the Christmas period. So thank you there to all of you guys. And also, if you would be interested in downloading the SofaScore app for the latest scores, the latest player ratings, and all of the news there, that is all over on the SofaScore app. And if you do download that following the link in the description below, that is a big help indeed to the channel, guys. So thank you there for that fantastic support just to keep us going. But if we do jump straight into a question, and a very, very good question at that, from my community section there. And this one actually is from Matto Plays. He says, were we overperforming at the start of the season, or are we underperforming now? So really, where is our true level when it comes to Barca? At the start of the season, we were absolutely explosive, winning goals by a multiple goal margin. You know, it was 4, it was 5, it was 6, it was 7 at times from this Barcelona team. And now we are scrapping, we are struggling to even get points on the board in La Liga. It is a real contrast. So where is our true level? Now, in my opinion, guys, looking at this here objectively, I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. I think at the start of the season, it was almost going at times too well. You know, you thought this can't go on, this kind of level. It was extraordinary. It was some of the best football, some of the most unbelievably clinical finishing we'd ever seen at Barca. And we were all thinking, okay, this is incredible, but can we sustain it? So I think the true level there is somewhere in the middle, but I would say, I think our true level is closer to the start of the season than what we're seeing from Barca right now. I don't believe here this is anywhere close to what we can actually achieve. There is absolutely no way that we should be going a string of games in La Liga without winning. There's no reason why we should be struggling against the bottom teams in the league. I don't see that continuing. I do believe here that Barca in the second half of the season will improve again, will raise their level. I think this Christmas break, the winter break here, a number of days for the players just to relax. You've seen a few of them, you know, flying off around the world, doing things that they want to do, just unwinding a bit after a really intense start of the season. And I think you will see a real improvement, and I mean immediately. I think January is going to see an improvement from Barca in terms of the level and in terms of the effort that we're able to bring. I think they will be recharged, I think they will be back to their intense best, and we will definitely see an improvement in performances, in my opinion. Which brings us on then to another important question here, and this one is from Mosin, who basically says, would you be okay with not winning the league if it meant winning the Champions League? So in other words there, if you were able to go and win the Champions League this season, would you be happy to say goodbye to La Liga? Now, of course, guys, I'm not saying here, and I'm sure that Mosin also is not saying that it has to be one or the other, that you can only win the Champions League if you don't win the league, or that you can only win the league if you don't win the Champions League. We at Barca have proved in the past that you can do it all, that you can win it all. And of course, we'd never want to rule that out. We'd never want to say as Barcelona fans here that we can't do something. We always want to strive to win everything. We always want to be in the position to be challenging and contending. But in terms of being realistic right now, if I had to pick one or the other, absolutely yes. I would be saying I want the Champions League. I don't really care about La Liga right now, if I had to choose. Because obviously, we've won La Liga plenty of times over the past 10 years. In terms of the Champions League, it's nearly a decade. We have been waiting year upon year upon year. And the thing about the Champions League for me is, we've got so many painful memories. We have so many moments in this competition in recent history, which actually even goes back to not even being in it. You know, we dropped out of the Champions League. We suffered the embarrassment of the Europa League. And I just want a season where we say, okay, we are back to every other club in this competition, and we stop being a laughing stock. We stop being the team that people think, oh, well, they're not going to win it. They're not going to challenge for it. They're not going to contend for it. It's Barca. Their best years are behind them in the Champions League. I've had enough of that now. We have done things in La Liga. We have won La Liga, but it doesn't get the larger point across. It doesn't make the kind of statement that we want to make now. And that is why, for me, if I had to choose between the two this season, for sure, I'm going for the Champions League. I would absolutely love for that to come back to Barcelona. We have waited. We have been desperately waiting for it. And people then will say, though, but if you can't win the league, if you can't put in consistent performances, if you're not able to win domestically, how on earth can this Barca team win the Champions League? But as I've said here before, it can happen. History has shown us in the Champions League that you can win it, even if you're not at your best, even if in the league you're not doing your best things. Real Madrid have done it many, many times, whereby in La Liga we've been superior, Atleti have been superior, but Real Madrid find a way. And think about Chelsea, the times they've won in the Champions League, they've been having an absolute meltdown at times in the season, but they got it together when it really, really mattered. I mean, look at it even a few years ago, guys. Tottenham reached the Champions League final. Tottenham. I mean, if Tottenham can do that, anything is possible. Literally anything right now. Ajax, of course, had a fantastic run that year as well. So Barca here, they have to believe in themselves. They have to believe that even if things right now are a bit rocky, they're a bit sketchy, you can lose a league title within the space of a month or two. If you put in a really bad run of results, you could be hurt in the league. You can basically never recover from that. But in the Champions League, it's about peaking. It is about making sure that in those biggest moments, when the games come along, when those knockout games are here, that you are ready and that you arrive on the big stage. And I still believe that Barca can do that. Which indeed, guys, focusing on next year now, I've had lots of questions coming in regarding Wojciech Szczesny. When are we going to see him make his Barca debut? We have still not even seen him in a Barca shirt for one single minute. When is Szczesny going to get his chance? And should he have gotten it before now? Is there a feeling here that Peña should have been replaced in the Barca first team? But I think it's really interesting to actually listen to Wojciech Szczesny, because a lot of people would have put him in over Peña. They would have had him in the team ahead of him. But Szczesny himself honestly wouldn't have. He said, I do not hide the fact that if I were the coach of this club, I would have played the same number of matches that I have played so far. So he's saying that if I was the coach of Barca, I would have played myself no times like I have done. He said it's difficult for me to be frustrated with my situation because I agree with it 100%. And this is not the first time that Szczesny has been incredibly honest, incredibly humble as well, and selfless, I would say, to ultimately say, you know what? I agree. I understand what's happening. I understand the situation, and I even go as far to agree with it. He said when things weren't going well, the media tried to pressure Hansi Flick into playing me, but I was the first to come out and say that Peña deserves the recognition and that we should trust him. And he ultimately said, I've got a very different perspective now. He said I was already on the other side. He said I was retired, I was done from the game, but I have more perspective now to evaluate the situation and not be so selfish. That is why I do not get frustrated. And I just think those words from Wojciech Szczesny, they really are commendable there, because I think it only adds to the fact that we brought somebody in, even if he isn't playing, but in terms of the dressing room, that is a very, very good character to have around there. Really good, and especially for somebody like Peña, I'm sure that's even giving him confidence there, to have the number 2 goalkeeper really praising you, really saying he deserves the trust, he deserves this moment, and you've got to give full credit to him for that. But I would expect Szczesny to play at some point, though. He will want to make his Barca debut, he will want to have that experience in a Barca shirt, and that should come, guys, in our very first game back after the break there, the Copa del Rey match versus Barbastro. That is going to be a special moment for him. I'm absolutely sure that he's going to play and start in that game, and then we're going to see what we're working with, because it's going to be really interesting in that game, guys, because hypothetically here, what happens, and I know it's against lower league opposition, but what happens if Szczesny is just unbeatable in that game? If he comes out and he really shows the quality that we know that he does have, that we know is in there from his very, very long career, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens when he plays, how he looks, how he performs, how he suits that Barcelona shirt, and we should find out very, very soon exactly what he's made of he will make his debut, and it will be a special moment for him. However, guys, over the past few days, inevitably at Barca, we couldn't go a few days here without some injury news. We do have an injury update involving Ferran Torres, because he actually ended the game against Atletico Madrid with a muscle issue there. Barca have come out and confirmed that he has a small soleus injury, and he will be spending around 2 weeks on the sidelines right now. That is what we are hearing. He is definitely out for that Copa del Rey game against Barbastro. That is another player who'll be missing from that game, and he's expected to be back, of course, for the Super Cup in January. They're heading out to Saudi Arabia, first game coming up against Athletic Club in the semi-finals. He's another one who is fighting to be fit in time for that game, and Ferran has had a bit of an injury-hit season so far. He has had a number of difficulties there. He spent a lot of time recovering and recuperating to get back in this team, had that great game, of course, against Dortmund, but what we are looking for from him, again, it's about consistency. It is about consistently delivering a high level, performing in front of goal, being clinical. You know, that's what we're looking for from every single forward here. Players who can put the ball in the back of the net, whether it be Lewandowski, Ferran, Pau, Victor as well. Do not forget about him. We're, of course, going to talk about his registration too later. But from all of these forwards, we need goals. We need you to be the ones to be firing, to be putting away the incredible amount of chances that we're creating. And Ferran now has another setback to overcome. Which indeed, speaking about injury problems, guys, does bring us on to the topic here of Lamine Yamal for several different reasons, though, here today. Because right now, of course, Yamal himself is recovering. He is another player there who's fighting really to be fit, and you wonder if he's being pushed as well to be fit in time for that Super Cup in January coming up against Athletic Club. So everybody right now is trying to be ready for those games. We know they can be quite lucrative for the club in terms of the prize money, but even so, Yamal must be allowed to recover at his own pace, and we must insist on that. We must be absolutely adamant here. This boy should not be rushed, because I want to bring you a report that we heard actually over the Christmas break here, when it's being said that Yamal was not even 100% when he came back from his last ankle injury. Because apparently there, when Yamal made his return just a few weeks ago, he was still having ankle pain, but he was aware of how much Barca needed him back out on the field. Now, this is a big problem in my opinion, and this is something here that cannot happen. Because do not forget, guys, that Yamal made that return coming off the bench against Las Palmas. And in that game, we were struggling. Yeah, it's true. We needed him. We wanted to try and have his influence, but hey, only if he was 100% fit, only if he had fully recovered, because even when he came on in that game, if you remember, he didn't look right. He did not look like his usual self. He didn't quite look right on the pace, and that's understandable because he was probably still in pain. And then even right after that game, guys, he started every other match and played the 90 minutes. He played 90 and started it against Mallorca, 90 against Betis, 90 then away in the Champions League against Dortmund, and until his injury against Leganés, when, remember, he was left on longer than he should have been. He played 75 minutes of that game, even despite getting such a hard blow in that first half. And we have to be careful. I am really, really concerned, and I'll keep saying it, and I'll keep talking about it here, with what is happening with Yamal. Because in my opinion, his importance to the team, how good he is, how influential he is, that is irrelevant when it comes to his condition. That is irrelevant when it comes to injuries here. You cannot base a return on whether or not we need him, on whether or not the team is crying out for Yamal. It doesn't matter. If he's not recovered, he is not ready. If he is not 100% pain-free, no matter how important he is, he should not be playing. And I also think here, guys, we hear in the media, oh, Yamal wanted to play, he wanted to help. I'm sure that he does, he's a great kid. He really wants to be out there at all times helping the team. He knows what he can do, but at the end of the day too, he is 17 years old. There is absolutely no way it should be all in his hands. There has to be people around him here. Yamal, the Barca medical staff, also Hansi Flick staff and himself too. They have got to be understanding what's going on and making the decision for him. You cannot let him be putting his body through the pain barrier to be available for these games that honestly, in terms of long-term thinking, they do not matter. And that is why Yamal shouldn't be rushed for any game, whether it's the Super Cup, whether it's playing there in the semi-final against Athletic Club. I'll repeat again, if he is not ready, if he's not recovered, he simply should not be playing. But one really big positive on Lamine Yamal, guys, actually Jorge Mendes actually spoke a few days ago here. He said Yamal will soon be extending his contract at Barcelona. He said there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt that's going to happen. His future is absolutely clear there. So Mendes, the agent of Yamal, very close as well to the club. I'm sure that has really helped here. But Yamal, he wants to be here. He wants to be part of this. He's going to extend that deal. It's going to be a long-term one. And we are going to be enjoying this player for many, many years to come. But that's even more reason why we must look after him. We must be careful with him. We want to enjoy this generational talent. However, guys, that doesn't mean that everybody's future at the club, though, is crystal clear. Not everybody's situation is as clear-cut as Yamal staying at Barca, or Pedri, or Gavi, for example, because, well, let's talk now about Frenkie de Jong, because it's quite interesting here that his agent has also spoken here today, and he's actually come out after a few rumours were linking Frenkie with a move to Saudi Arabia. But he says here, Ali Durzan, the reports about a move to Saudi, they are complete nonsense, and it distracts Frenkie from what he really wants, shining at a club that he loves the most and where he feels at home. And he then went on to say, who knows, maybe Barca and Frenkie will stay together for a longer time. So that is really interesting there. First of all, despite all the rumours that you hear about Frenkie, and it is constant, there's different rumours all the time, this is really the only time his agent has come out and said, oh, that's not true, when something there was said about Saudi. I'm surprised here that we haven't heard more from Frenkie de Jong's agent. And the club also would like to hear more from him too. They struggle to talk with his agent. They struggle there to negotiate at all. But he says here, Ali Durzan, that Frenkie wants to shine at the club that he loves the most in Barca and where he feels at home. And we spoke recently about Lewandowski and his family being very, very settled in Barcelona. We know as well, Frenkie de Jong and Mickey, they are really, really happy in the city. And he says there, could they continue for a longer time? But ultimately, we don't know. You know, even now his agent is saying, well, maybe it could happen. There's no certainty with anybody here, with Frenkie and also with Araujo. They're kind of in the same kind of situation right now. Their contracts are running down. The club, I think they want to renew them. I think in an ideal world, they would like to make it happen. But there's just no assurances from any side, from anyone. It is all up in the air, and the clock is really ticking, because we are now into the final 18 months of this deal before Frenkie de Jong becomes a free agent at the end of it. And if I had to ask you right here and right now, do you honestly believe that Frenkie de Jong will extend his contract at Barca? Will he stay here long term? And if not, how's it going to end? Will it end this summer, or will it end as Frenkie leaving on a free transfer? That is something there that I need to know from all of you guys down below. But hey, the uncertainty here, the drama, I mean the nervousness, it continues. And we have to talk now about Dani Olmo, because this is a serious situation and this is a really pressing issue. Because here today, don't forget that Barca appealed La Liga's stance on Dani Olmo, on his registration. They went there to the court that they believed would give them what they wanted. They thought that appeal would be successful, as it was in the past with Gavi's registration. But right here today, this morning, that appeal has been rejected by the court here. They have rejected Barca's appeal, and as of right now, Dani Olmo cannot be registered. Now, Barca have until the 31st of December to register Olmo, and they will be presenting a new lawsuit against La Liga, apparently, in the lower court on the 30th of December. So we are really cutting things incredibly fine right now. We believe that Barca have some sort of plan B, but right now, I am channeling Will Mackenzie, because there's a plan B, is there? Only plan A was so brilliantly devised, I wouldn't have thought we'd have needed a plan B. But seriously, guys, they have to make this work. They have to find a way here to make a success of this situation. Because remember, if Olmo cannot be registered, he can just leave. He can just walk away for absolutely nothing. A €60 million signing 6 months ago could leave the club for free. That cannot happen. I mean, talking about laughing stock, that would be an absolute joke here. The club can cannot allow that to even be close to happening here. And of course I know, guys, that in terms of the club, in terms of Laporta, in terms of the board, it's not all their fault. I know they're having to deal here with La Liga, with Javier Tebas, but as I keep saying with regards to that, it's not new. It's not news to us that these are the obstacles that we'd have to overcome. And my question would be, Barca thought that with the Nike deal, everything would be fine. That La Liga apparently had told them that with that Nike deal, they'd be able to register Dani Olmo and be able to register Pau Victor. Now, the problem is, did they get that in writing? You know, these assurances that apparently we get from La Liga, are they just verbal? Is it just Tebas saying, oh, yeah, that'll be fine. A few months down the road, the guy changes his mind like the weather. You need proper assurances. We need something here to fall back on in these kinds of situations whereby we can point to something and say, look, it was clear. We were given this information. We have followed through on our side of things, on our promise. We have got this brand new shiny contract over the line. It's all done. So now, please let us register our players. And admittedly, I still cannot believe this is what we have to go through. I cannot believe here this is what you have to go through in order to register exciting, talented, brilliant players for a league. The league actively don't want this talent. They do not want players coming into their league improving not only Barca, but I'm talking about every single team in this league here. Why is it such an effort? Why is it such an ordeal every single time you want to sign a player? This is not the way to grow. This is not the way to move forward and really expand and improve and capitalize on new markets. All of these kinds of things. It's not right. But Barca knew the risks. They knew who they were dealing with. And please, guys, what do you make right now of this Dani Olmo situation? What do you make right now about the mess, the complete mess that we find ourselves in? And do you still have confidence that ultimately, before that deadline, he can be registered for the second half of the season? Please do let me know all of those opinions down below on everything that we have gone through in today's episode. I hope that you have enjoyed it, and I really do appreciate your incredible support. I will be back soon. We will have lots more to discuss, because we're not going to stop. No matter what, we must prepare ourselves for a big year in 2025. Thank you indeed, guys, for tuning in. But until next time, as always, Vejska, El Barça.